What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Club podcast. I'm your host, Tawfiq.
And I'm Andrew.
We're joined today by a very special guest. We have the founder of my Condo source, Sehr Mahmood. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
You just came back from a trip from South Africa?
Yeah?
A builder's trip?
Yes, it was absolutely amazing. I think it was just like a bucket list trip to do the safari. So I love animals, and it was just something so different from what all the other builders have done so far.
If you can just give the audience a little introduction, background, how you started in real estate, and how you became Sehr today.
Yeah, so I started my journey in 2012. So it's been 12 years now. And I got into real estate really by chance. I'd actually have an MBA in finance, and I graduated in the middle of the financial crisis. I couldn't get a job. And at that time, it was extremely frustrating. But in hindsight, it was the best thing that could have happened to me because it led me to this path of real estate. I had decided that I want to be an entrepreneur, not an employee. And it wasn't that I said I wanted to do real estate. I just thought of real estate as the path to entrepreneurship that's going to lead me to success. And that's how my journey started. And, obviously with entrepreneurship, there's no ceiling, but there's also no floor. So you have to be ready for those failures and that challenges. And if you can move past those, that really lead you to success. In the first year of my business, I was focusing completely on rentals. I did 120 rentals that year, which the broker was like, this is crazy. But the best thing about it was it helped me learn how to interact with clients because I had no experience whatsoever. I was meeting 15 to 20 people a day. So I built up a database of 2,500 people in 1 year.
That's crazy.
People think that clients are coming from rentals, they're never going to buy, but that's far from the truth. What I realized was a lot of these people had money. They were renting for various reasons. Maybe they've just come into the country and they're new here. They're figuring out their bearings. Some of them were like execs from like New York, etc., who are here for like a 1-year contract. They're making a lot of money, but they're not committed to living in Toronto for the rest of their lives. So they're renting. So what I realized was that database was a lot of high net worth clients and so forth, that I quickly was able to transition my business in the second year. Pretty much
by yourself,
by myself, no team. And then that really set the expectation of where I want my business to go. Because I was like, I'm not going to have my business go down from here. I only want it to go up. So I did 100. Then the next year I did 200. Then I was doing 200 consistently for 4 years by myself without a team. And that's where I kind of peaked and capped. I said, I can't do more than 200 on my own. And that's when I slowly started to, form a team and make my condo source what it is today.
So if you were, let's say, a new agent today starting out, and obviously things have changed a lot between the 12 years, like, would you do the same thing? Would you go into rentals, or is there, now knowing what you know, would you actually just start your team right away?
I would definitely not start my team right away. I think that to be a team leader, you have to achieve a certain level of success before you can teach other people how to do it. So I even see a lot of teams nowadays in the industry, and I'm like, if this platinum agent hasn't sold 200, 300, 400 units on their own, how can you bring on 6 other people and try and teach them to do that? So I think to be a leader, you do have to be able to be at that highest level on your own before you bring on, others to help you. What else would I have done differently? The biggest thing that I would have done differently was I joined a very large team. There was 55 people in that team, and I essentially feel like I became like just a number. So there was no personal attention and so forth. And I love the team leaders and so forth. They were great. But was I able to get that mentorship at that time? No. So everything that I figured out, I kind of figured out on my own. So I would say for a new agent, if you think that you want to be in commercial or pre-construction or resale or whatever genre you want to be in, it is important to you maybe join a smaller team where you can get that mentorship, really that hands-on experience with that team leader. And, some people might say, well, how do I get onto a top team? It's next to impossible. They don't want to hire me. Maybe the interview didn't go well. I don't know, get them coffee, do errands for them. Just figure out a way to be around that sort of mindset that can elevate your business and take you to that next level.
So now, like, you're an entrepreneur now, right? You're not just a real estate agent. How was the transition from just a regular real estate agent to a team leader? And what were the challenges of hiring team members and managing people?
Right. So, it's a completely different business on its own. And I think that your job really changes because you go from being an independent salesperson to now becoming essentially a leader or a boss, your role as a boss is just to handle problems all day long. Whatever everybody else can do, they come to you to figure out, like, here, handle this problem for me, boss. And that now become your new role. So you have to be, cognizant of the fact that you're bringing on people, you have to train them. There's a whole learning process involved. So it's a completely different role. So now I find that I have to do less sales, but I'm doing more mentorship, more training, trying to elevate the team members so that they can essentially become doubles of me, hopefully one day.
Because it requires different skill sets, right? Like some agents are successful by themselves, but when they open a team, you have to be a leader. So it's not for everyone.
It's not for everybody. And that's why it's important. You have to bring on the right people as well. And obviously that is going to be trial and error to a big degree, but bringing on the right team members who can really elevate your business and have the same goals and the visions as you, because I can't even tell you guys how many people I've met who I interview who say, oh, we want to make $1 million.
Yeah.
And then what you quickly find is that their goals and their work ethic don't align, and they don't even know what it takes to get to that level of making $1 million a year. So I would say, for a new agent, it's really important that maybe before you set your goals, follow and shadow somebody who you aspire to be and see if that's the lifestyle you want. It can't just be about getting that result. It's about, are you able to really embody that lifestyle that they have and that level of pressure that's in that business when you're operating at those high numbers.
So do you find a lot of new agents, they tell you that they want to make millions and then they join your team and they see how much work they have to put in and then they quit?
Yeah, I find, I would say every 1 out of 10 people last, or 2 out of 10 people, because they come in, they're super excited in the beginning. For the first 4 or 5 weeks, everybody's making like 100 calls a day.
They show up to the office.
They show up to the office, and then slowly you start seeing the excuses coming in. Oh, the drive is really long. Oh, my dog is sick. Oh, my mom needs me at the store today. And you start seeing that transition of it becoming less and less and less. And, I also see a lot of agents who say, oh, I'm just going to business isn't going well. So this week I'm going to do a little part-time job, and I'm doing subcontracting here for the next week.
Yeah.
And I think to really be successful in this business, you have to burn your boats. And what I mean by that is, it started with this story of in 1519, there was this Spanish conquistador. He sailed on 4 ships from Spain to Mexico with his troops. When they got there, they were overwhelmed. They said, oh my God, Mexico is too big. We can't take over. And what he did was he lit their boats on fire. And he said, well, there's no turning back. So it's fight or flight, it's sink or swim, essentially. So what happens? Survival mode kicks in, and you have to make it work. So I feel for new agents, they need to do the exact same thing. Whereas you cut the cord, you cut the net, you have a part-time job, get rid of it. Because you have to go all in and put that 100% effort into making yourself a successful real estate agent. You can't be, I'm a real estate agent on Mondays and I'm a contractor on Tuesdays and I'm working at my mom's shop on a Wednesday and now I'm back to real estate. It doesn't work. So you really have to go all in to make it successful.
And to be at the top.
To be at the top and have that patience and that resilience, because, a lot of people get very demotivated when they make 100 calls a day and everybody's just saying no and they're hanging up. But what you have to realize is that the industry average is 4% in a good market. Now it's a poor market. So maybe you're looking at a 1% conversion or a 2% conversion. But every no that you get, you're one step away from getting a yes. So as long as you can keep trucking through those calls and providing value, really elevating your game in what you're saying on the phone, because it's no longer like 2021 where you're calling a buyer and saying, what unit do you want,
No more order taking.
Yeah, it used to be order taking. Anybody could sell a unit back then. It's no longer like that. You really need to be providing value, have knowledge of what the inventory that's around, the incentives are changing on a weekly basis. So how can you really get them a really good deal that is going to give them that appreciation in the long run? And then they have to be able to trust you. You have to build that trust with them. And that's what it takes to succeed in this market. But a lot of people will get demotivated after those first 4 weeks. They haven't had a sale and they're like, oh, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I should do this for now. So they're looking for that short-term fix to get money elsewhere, but forgetting that you want to build a long-term brand for yourself. And it takes so much work to build an everlasting, evergreen brand that's going to generate you career success. So I think that short-term vision that agents have is, when they're new, they really need to get rid of that and think, how can I have longevity in my career? Because you're going to be doing this till, I don't know, 60 years old, hopefully. So
Yeah.
So essentially you're saying for the people who really succeed, they have a plan A, but no plan B to fall back
I have
on.
to have no plan B. They need to make plan A
No
work.
backup.
Yeah, there can be a backup.
So when you're interviewing new team members or potential team members, like what are some qualities that you specifically look for?
I think the first one is, are they personable? Okay, so if I'm sitting in front of you and you can't connect with me, that's an issue on itself as well. So there's a lot of agents who are very good at learning stats and facts, but they can't build a rapport with the person on the phone. People don't like being sold. They like shopping with friends. Can you become friends with your clients or have that energy on the phone that will lead them to trust you, to want to work with you? Because if I'm just saying stat, and expecting you to buy in this market, it's not going to work. So I really look for someone, can they build that connection? Can they be personable on the phone? Can they be personable in person? Like, is the energy between us good? Because that's what a lot of sales is about energy. So can you lead with enthusiasm? Because people are not buying condos. They're buying with you and they're buying with your enthusiasm about with the process. And it just happens that what they're buying is a condo. So, the same thing will go into any aspect of sales, whether you're selling cars, whether you're selling shoes. It's like you have to lead with enthusiasm. So I look for what kind of energy do these people have? And then the second thing is, what's their mental mindset? Like, are you being controlled by what people are saying in the media that, oh, interest rates are too high, nobody's buying, the market has crashed, the world is over? Or can you set that path for your own success and say, you know what, there's fewer deals out there, but there's still deals happening. I want to be one of those agents who can make that happen. So that mental mindset is really, really important. And I always tell my agents, like, pressure is a privilege. Like, we think of pressure as like a very negative thing and stress is a very negative thing. But if you don't have pressure in your life, that means you're not doing anything substantial.
Yeah.
You're very comfortable and there's nothing happening for you. So when you have pressure in your life to perform, it means that you've put yourself in a situation where you can have that high reward. So, I would say embrace pressure. It's like one of the most dynamic tools to make things happen. Pressure is what makes pipes burst and pressure is what creates diamonds. So take that pressure and then turn it into something that can make yourself more successful.
So it depends on who has that pressure. They can either fail or they can really succeed.
Yeah, because, if you were part of a team and your team leader is saying, what's happening? I'm not getting sales. I'm giving you leads. I've spent 10 grand, I'm giving you, 200 leads. What's happening, Tawfiq? Why are there no sales? You can take that pressure and say, oh my God, like, I'm not good. And you can take it very negative, or you can say, you know what, like, let me propel forward. So it's about how do you balance that?
And how did you pivot since the market kind of slowed down? Did you change anything in your business approach or?
Yeah, we're doing a lot more educational seminars. So, before it was very different. You were doing a lot of sales on the phone, and now it's more like we're doing webinars, we're doing seminars. So it's pivoted a lot. Like we're providing a lot more value. And I would say the other thing is you have to be able to really become an area expert. So if you're selling a project, let's say in Hamilton, you need to know all 4 developments that are there right now. You have to be able to offer that product to your client and let them make that decision, because if you're not doing it, somebody else is. So really like elevating the level of market knowledge and informing people about what's happening in the industry, because they're only focused on the few headlines that they hear, but maybe they're not so in tune with why is it a good opportunity to buy right now. So we're educating all our clients on the fact that the incentives that we're seeing in this market from builders, we've never seen those kind of incentives before. 8% interest on deposit, $7 a square foot rental guarantee. Like these are incentives that in 2021 were like unheard of. So it's actually a very good time to buy if you can see beyond that short-term, vision of like the market is slow right now, because you have to think of real estate in 3, 5, 10-year cycles. You can't think of it like what's going to happen in October of 2024. Think about like, if I buy this now, how is it going to perform for me in 2027, 2028, 2029? Like we're seeing projects that we're selling. Tawfiq's wearing a sweatshirt of a project that's being completed in 2030.
Yeah.
So when you're selling that right now, like if the person's saying the market's not good right now, yeah, but do you believe that the market's not going to be good in 2030? So it's about educating them about the number of immigrants that we have coming. We made 500,000 new people immigrants last year. You have to think about the fact that we're the fastest growing country in the G7. Fundamentally, we do have a shortage of supply and demand. So this is a very short window where people can take opportunity. So that's what we're doing, is we're educating them about that fact, because all they see is, oh my God, the market's crashed. And they think that what's happening today is what's going to be forever. So you have to kind of showcase them that no, this is really the best time. It's a 6-month window you have, or maybe a 1-year long window where you can take advantage of these opportunities that will yield you results in 2029, 2030, or whenever that project is closing.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at projects, especially ones that maybe you might want to invest in, what are some factors you look into?
So obviously, number one is the developer, because you don't want to just go for price is obviously very important, but you want the cheapest price with a developer that's never built before, especially in this market? No, obviously not. So you want a developer that has a good reputation, and not just a good reputation, but in the genre that you want to buy in. So you could have a low-rise developer who's built tons of low-rise, but have never built high-rise before. So you want to look at things like that. Do they have a good track record? Have they canceled projects before? So you want to be careful of those situations. Obviously, you can't be bang on every single time, but that's very important. The next thing is location and looking at areas of growth. So I always tell our clients, and this is for myself as well, you don't buy in areas that you want to live in, because people have this notion that, oh, I would never live there, so it's not a good investment. So they look at it and they're like, I can't even envision myself there. You don't buy in areas that you want to live in. You buy in areas that have that potential for appreciation. Like a really good one where we're selling a lot of units right now is in Hamilton. It's undergoing $4 billion in infrastructure enhancement, right? The government's pumping $2.3 billion into the LRT, $500 million into the waterfront, bringing new concert venues, streetscaping. There's Bell Canada is putting $400 million into the tele-networking infrastructure there. So when you look at all that, the waterfront's being revitalized with $148 million going in. So when you see all that infrastructure and community improvement happening, the Hamilton that you see today is going to be very different from the Hamilton that you have 7 years from now, 8 years from now. So, buying into areas that have that upside for potential.
Not everyone can see that vision. Most people, they just want to buy in already established neighborhoods, but then you're going to pay the price for that.
Yes, right? Exactly. And then obviously you also want to look at incentives. People are worried about rents, for example. So when you have projects that are saying, okay, we'll pay $7 a square foot, rental incentives and so forth, that's obviously the bonus cherry on the top. But I would say obviously the main ones are who's the developer, what's the location, what's my upside for appreciation, because when there's areas of growth, it brings in more tenants, your tenant profile increases, which means you get higher rents. So all of that comes into a full circle and does well as an investment.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you've been selling pre-construction since 2016, 2017?
So I've been selling pre-construction. My first site was in 2014, at the end of 2014.
Yonge and Eglinton?
Yeah, at Yonge and Eglinton. And in 2015, I only sold Yonge and Eglinton. So all the deals that I did, and I would say, for new agent, because you were asking me earlier, what advice could I give them, is to really become a market expert in a certain neighborhood. Because I think the reason why a lot of people have difficulty as agents right now, especially newer agents, is because in the fall, we had 40 launches. You guys remember that?
Yes.
And every week there's a new launch. It's very difficult to become an expert on Hamilton. Tomorrow you're selling Mississauga. Tomorrow you're selling Scarborough. And then you're selling North York. It's, you're all over the place. So what I did when I first started was I took Yonge and Eglinton. I became an area expert. I knew the traffic counts. I knew rental rates, days on market. I knew every single floor plan in every single building. And I just stayed there. I had 4 projects that year and they were all at Yonge and Eglinton. And that's how I did my 100 sales. And I found it was efficient for me. I knew it. I knew how to sell it. Whereas now, a little bit of this area, a little bit about that project, this new project's, come out and you're so confused because there's just so much information for especially a new agent who's just starting out.
Sure.
No, that's amazing. Have you tried selling pre-construction in other cities or other countries? And how did that go?
So So we're actually just starting to sell a little bit in Calgary. You know, that's been a market that a lot of people have tapped into in the last 6 months. We haven't taken advantage of that. We just started literally last week. I personally like selling the GTA because I know it. I'm comfortable in it. You know, I can touch, see, and feel it.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more uncomfortable in areas that I don't really know.
You're not seeing every day.
That you're not seeing, and I don't understand those markets at that same level. If I'm, recommending and giving advice on a certain project, I want it to be something that's like in my backyard that I'm personally very well versed with. And that's just me. Different things work for everybody. There's people who love selling other cities and countries.
And there's always going to be pre-construction projects in the GTA.
There's always going to be pre-construction projects in the GTA. There's interesting opportunities in like Costa Rica and Mexico and so forth as well. It's a little bit different because you need like 50% deposit versus like 10, 15, 20%. So it just depends on your clients as well.
For your own real estate portfolio, like what percentage would you say was pre-construction versus buying resale?
All of it, actually. All of it was pre-construction, but 3 of them were assignments and the other 17 were like the regular pre-construction process. Because I'm so heavily in the pre-construction business and I see opportunities come up on our table every single day, that's what I'm comfortable with. So that's what I've been buying. And I also like the fact that with pre-construction, you don't have the closings for like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So you can like stagger them out and just align your mortgages and so forth.
So you mentioned that you did 100 rentals in your first year.
120.
Yeah.
120. I'm very curious because I did rentals last month. I did 4 and I was going to kill myself. So did you have a structure? Because I know that you started in real estate. I don't think you had like maybe your parents in real estate or anyone you know. So you started from scratch.
I started like literally from scratch. When I've been with Signature since I started my career. When I got here the first day, they're like, do you have a database? I said, no, I'm an international student. I know like 12 people because most of the international students that I became friends with have also now gone back home. They said, well, do you have money to advertise? I said, nope, I'm actually like $80,000 in debt from like student loans. And like they said, you have family that can like feed you leads. And I was like, nope. No family here. I'm the only one here. So I literally had 0 database. So they said basically what they told me was, well, you're going to go out there on the street and find 5 new people to add to your database every single day who could potentially buy, rent, or sell real estate with you. And I said, well, where do I meet these 5 high net worth, sophisticated individuals? And I decided that the best course of action for me was to put ads on a really high-end website called Craigslist at that time. So every single day I would post other people's listings because I had no listings of my own on Kijiji and Craigslist. And I would advertise. Now, keep in mind, this was 2012, 2013. And it was a really good rental market. It was a very strong rental market at that time. And I would advertise other people's listings, a fresh new listing that would have come up on MLS that day. So not one that's 7 days old or 10 days old or a month old. Brand new in a good building that I knew that people were, looking to live in. I would say there's an open house from 5 to 6 and then an open house from 7 to 8. And I did this consistently every single day.
So that's when people say like you're working smart, not hard.
Exactly. But what I did do was I saved everybody's information because now I had their, from their applications, their email addresses, their phone numbers. I knew what they did. So I started to build my database and that's what really made me an effective salesperson the next year.
Yeah. And you said after that, that's when you got into pre-construction and you've been doing it ever since. So you kind of picked a niche, right?
What ended up happening was that one of the buildings that I was, I lived at Bathurst and Lakeshore at that time. And I was hustling Liberty Village a lot because there was a lot of new development going on in that area. So I called one of the listing agents and said, how do you have 7 listings in the same building? Because I'm on MLS and I keep seeing condo store, condo store,
You're
condo
curious,
store.
yeah.
I said, what's happening? And he said, oh, it's because I sold them pre-construction. And I was like, what's pre-construction? And he's like, oh, I sold the building before it's built. And I said, I don't know how that works, but that's what I want to do. And that was my first entry into pre-construction. He's like, well, I'm having an event this weekend and it's for a project at Yonge and Eglinton. So if you have any clients, feel free to bring them by. And that's what I did. I said, I don't have any clients, but I'm going to find some. So I started calling that rental database and educating them on this pre-construction project and explaining to them that while you can't buy resale right now because you don't have that 20% down, maybe you can get a mortgage because you've only been working for the past 6 months and you need credit history of 2 years and more, Preconstruction could be the avenue for home ownership for you. So people were very interested in that. They were very curious as to how it worked. And I got a whole bunch of people come. And, I did 7 sales my first weekend in Preconstruction.
That's crazy.
From the rental database. Because people, not everybody can put 120,000 now. But if you say, can you put 5% this year, 5% next year, 5%, a lot of people would say, yeah, that's manageable. So with rentals, with the rental clients, they just don't have the education of how pre-construction even works and how it could be an avenue for them for home ownership. So once I was able to explain that, I was able to have great success. And I think that, a lot of people discount their rental database completely thinking, oh, these people are just rental people. But what people need is that education.
Yeah.
So you put a lot of focus into a specific niche in the market after the leasing.
Yes. So I wanted, after I did those rentals, I built this scalable rental business, but my paychecks were small. I said, how can I take this and build the same scalability in another niche? You can't do that in resale by yourself because resale is very time consuming. People want to see a lot of properties. Sometimes they want to buy Mississauga for a month and they decide they want to live in Brampton. So it was very time consuming. With pre-construction, what I found was the projects launching, you're giving the information and they're making a decision and within 3 to 4 days if they're buying or not. So it was a quick turnaround transaction in terms of the amount of time that it was taken. So I realized that this is a business that I can build scalability in. So that for me was very, very important.
Is that what you would recommend to new agents as well, to specifically pick a niche?
Yeah, definitely. Pick a niche and become an expert. I think one of the biggest mistakes is people say, oh, they have a cousin who wants to buy a farm somewhere. Then they have someone who's looking at a commercial property somewhere. Then there's resale. So they're dabbling in all these different avenues and they don't really know how to do any of them. So pick one, become an expert and make that your niche. And then that's how you can build scalability, build a brand for yourself, build a name for yourself. Because it's very hard to be running to a farm and running to a commercial rental on Yonge Street for, a basement somewhere. So it's really pick that niche and focus on it and elevate your game within that little pocket.
100%.
Yeah.
So from all the amount of high volume sales you've done for builders, obviously you get to go on a lot of trips. Was there any in particular that stood out that's kind of your favorite?
I think I've been very lucky because I've been able to travel to so many amazing, places. I've been to Dubai and south of France and so forth. But
Do you know how many countries you've been in? Do you count or no?
I haven't counted, but just last year I had over 10 builder trips. So I was traveling pretty much every single month. I have 3 more coming up in the next 3 months. But I think the last trip that I just went on South Africa was probably the most unique location. It was very far to get to. It took us 27 hours and 2 layovers and 2 flights to get there. But it was so unique because we live in a concrete jungle here.
Yes.
And when you get there, it's just there's no buildings. We got to the safari, complete nature, you're quiet and you just hear birds chirping and animal noises. And it's just the air is fresh. It was just so unique to see wildlife in their element. We're seeing lions and cubs and leopards. And it was just so amazing to be able to have them walk past your car.
It's crazy.
It was so crazy. You would think that you're in a petting zoo, but then you realize, oh, this is actually the wild. And they're literally walking past your Jeep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you prefer traveling by yourself or with other people?
When you say other people, do you mean friends or with agents?
Agents.
I think I like both. I like to go on vacations with my own group of friends, but I do love traveling with platinum agents as well. And the reason that I would say that is because you're traveling with the echelon of the industry that's at the top of their game.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're around that kind of energy for 5 days, 6 days, or a week, you really pick up on those small little tidbits of tips, and the way that they think is very different from the average realtor. You're talking about these guys who are making millions of dollars a year. The way that they perform and the way they think and how they conduct their business at a whole new level.
Yeah.
So when you're organically in these dinners and lunches with them, you're not always talking business, but you do talk business. And if you can even pick up one thing that can elevate your game when you come back to Toronto, that's worth, could be hundreds and thousands of dollars. So I love being around the energy of the platinum agents because you really learn a lot from them. And everybody's doing something different in their business. So what I'm doing could be completely different from how somebody else who's doing 300, 400 deals a year is doing. So it's really good to pick each other's brains and like elevate our game when we come back to Toronto.
Yeah.
So it
Definitely.
provides you with that opportunity to do that. Whereas you see them all the time in sales office, it's not the same thing. Everybody's busy with their clients or like with the builder, you know, stressed about a deal. So when you're on these vacations, people are relaxed, and that's when you really like, you know, can intake that information.
Yeah.
It seems like the ultra successful agents, they do have a sort of different mindset than your regular agents. Is there anything that you can pick out from your own life that's kind of led you to become the person that you are today? Or were you just always like this high energy, like motivated, high achiever?
I think that, you know, it's about being really patient and being persistent. So like I said, you have to be resilient. You know, you're going to like talk to 100 people. A lot of people are going to say no. And what these top people have obviously done very well is realize that failure is a big part of that process. So you have to embrace that failure and take those lessons that you've learned from them to progress yourself forward. And I think that's how they're able to elevate to those levels, because they don't look at it like a negative thing. They just look at it like a stepping stone in that ladder to success. So if you can be resilient and if you can have that persistence to keep doing the same thing every day when your clients are not, you know, picking up the call, they're not booking your appointments with you, just to keep going and have that persistence. They say that a river doesn't cut through rock because of its power. It cuts through rock because of its persistence. So success to me in real estate is the exact same. You just have to keep being persistent and you will see the end game of success if you can just follow the right steps throughout.
That's a solid advice. And it's not only for real estate, it's for
Anyone.
field.
For any field, exactly.
Do you have any other businesses other than real estate, or?
No, I don't have any other businesses other than real estate, but I do have like a big passion, which is animals. So, you know, I'm very big into like saving animals. In the last 2 years, I've done 2 spay and neuter clinics in Mexico for dogs. And I spayed and neutered last year 137 dogs and cats, the year before 120. So that's something that's big on my agenda of trying to like giving back to society and, you know, doing something that's bigger than myself, essentially. So that's high up there, that I want to like keep continuing to save these animals and really like use the success in real estate as fuel to be able to do the things that I really love, which is giving back.
How many animals do you have?
3.
3?
I have 2 cats and 1 dog who's actually here. I rescued him from Mexico last May, so he's pretty new.
It is actually International Women's Day. Do you have any message for the women out there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is the whole reason why I come on these podcasts. And recently I've been doing a lot of like speeches and webinars and going to other brokerages and speaking, because I feel like a lot of people feel trapped and they think that because they're in a certain circumstance, they're not going to be able to transcend out of that. So I like to share my story about how I came here as an immigrant, as a woman with no family and no money. And that, you know, if I can do it, you can do it too. And like really sharing that story and that message that as long as you can have that patience, persistence, and resilience and drive, you can get past those barriers and make a career for yourself and be very successful at a high level. So it's really about just breaking those barriers of the notions that you think in your head and getting past that.
That's inspiring, because I know a lot of agents like they start because their parents were already in real estate.
Yeah.
But for you, like you start from scratch. Same thing with me. I had no one in real estate, so it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with your mindset, you're going to be successful with whatever you're going to do. But for Sehrs, for the next like 10, 15 years, do you have a long-term vision of what you kind of want for yourself?
So I think obviously like in real estate, I would want to like generate a little bit more success to a point where like, you know, right now I feel like I'm in the business, I'm on top of the business, I'm running the business, I'm doing the hiring, I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing the film shooting, I'm doing the traveling, I'm doing the seminars, like everything's all happening at the same time and it's always around me. So my vision is hopefully get to a point where the business isn't just me and it can kind of like run by itself a little bit more, to have that more established, you know, team that can carry it on without me. And then obviously in terms of the animals, I want to be able to give back even more. So last year was just 1 spay and neuter clinic. How can I make a bigger impact and maybe make that tenfold? So with more real estate success can come more events like that as well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming. We got a ton of value, and I'm sure everyone in the audience got a lot of information.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Sehrs_MCS, or our team Instagram is my Condo Source, and our website's mycondosource.com.
Amazing. This is Tawfiq.
And I'm Andrew.
Make sure you guys you tune in to our next episode at the 1% Club podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.